Good day to you all. In this story, we'll be discussing the 5th chapter of the first volume of What If the True Dragons Went to Dragon Ball and Became Villains. This story was written by me and published by Story Approved in Wattpad. I hope you enjoy it. Now, let's begin. After a while, Goku and Gohan both woke up. They were both feeling a little groggy, but they were okay. They were both back in their base forms, their clothes still torn and their bodies still aching a little, but they were recovering. Krillin, who had been watching over them, smiled. He had been worried, but he was glad that they were okay. He took out 2 senzu beans. He gave one to Goku and one to Gohan. "Here you go," he said. Goku and Gohan took the beans and popped them in their mouths. They felt their wounds close, their muscles relaxed, and their energy surged back. They felt fully healed. Goku looked at Gohan, his eyes filled with pride. "Gohan, you've really gotten so strong," he said. He was amazed at how much stronger his son had become. Gohan smiled. "Thanks, Dad," he said. "But next time, I'll win." Goku laughed. "Well then, I will wait for that day, Gohan," he said. He knew that Gohan was going to become incredibly powerful. He was looking forward to their next battle. Goku said goodbye to Gohan, Piccolo, and the others. He knew that Gohan was going to keep training, and he was determined to keep up with him. Goku knew that he couldn't let his son surpass him in strength. He needed to get stronger too. Goku used instant transmission and disappeared in a flash of light. He reappeared on Beerus's planet, where Vegeta and Broly were training. He saw Vegeta and Broly sparring. Broly was in his Super Saiyan 1 form, his hair turning gold and his aura crackling with energy. Vegeta was in his Super Saiyan God form, his aura bright red. They were moving fast, their fists and feet blurring as they exchanged blows. They seemed to be equally matched. Goku wanted to join them, but he decided to wait. He had just finished a tough fight with Gohan, so he just let the two for now at least. Goku went to a corner of the training ground and sat down. Broly and Vegeta had both felt Goku's arrival. They could sense his powerful energy as he entered the training grounds. But they were so focused on their fight that they didn't pay much attention to him. They were both determined to beat the other, and they didn't want to be distracted. Goku went over to a large rock and sat down. He closed his eyes and began to meditate. He needed to focus his energy and clear his mind. He needed to train his mind as well as his body. Whis and Beerus had not yet returned, and Vegeta and Broly were too busy with their sparring match. He decided to take advantage of the quiet moment to train his mind. Meanwhile, back in Zeno's palace, the angels and the gods of destruction had all gathered. They had been working on a plan for the upcoming battle with the true dragons. They had all agreed that they needed to train the strongest warriors in the universe to be ready for the fight. They had decided to bring all the strongest fighters together. They had to be ready for the true dragons. They knew that the fight would be difficult, but they had to do it. They had to protect the universe. They had to train all the warriors together, because all 12 universes had now merged into one. The masked true dragon, who had blue hair, had caused this merging. The universe was now 12 times bigger. It was the combined power of all 12 universes. It was a challenge, but they were ready for it. They were ready to train and prepare for the fight. The angels and gods of destruction returned to the universe, ready to start training the strongest mortals. They knew that they had a lot of work ahead of them. They needed to find the strongest warriors in the universe and train them together to be ready for the fight against the true dragons. The Grand Priest headed toward Zeno's palace. He had an idea. He knew that Zeno was powerful and wise. He hoped that Zeno would be able to give them some advice on how to fight the true dragons. The Grand Priest had underestimated Zeno's knowledge before, and he wasn't going to make the same mistake again. Meanwhile, the true dragons were relaxing in a space outside the Dragon Ball world. Rimuru, Veldora, Velzard, Velgrind, and Milam were watching a television program that showed the events of the Dragon Ball world. They were very amused by the fight between Goku and Gohan. They laughed at the spectacle, finding it quite entertaining. They were watching the two Saiyans fight, their fists and feet blurring. They were impressed by the speed and power of the two Saiyans, but they still considered them weak compared to themselves. They were also laughing at how the angels and gods of destruction were scrambling to figure out how to defeat them. The true dragons found their panic quite humorous. They were also enjoying the shocked expressions on the angels and gods of destruction's faces when they realized how much Zeno knew. Zeno was much smarter than they had expected. They loved seeing them surprised. It was entertaining. It was fun. The true dragons were having a good time. They haven't had this much fun in thousands of years. They were so bored in the cardinal world. It was peaceful and quiet, and it was boring. Rimuru, who was enjoying the entertainment, wasn't entirely sure what modifications Seal had made to the Dragon Ball universe. But he didn't need to know. He was just enjoying the show. Rimuru, I'm enjoying this, Milim said, but why do we have to wait a year before we can fight them? She was impatient. She wanted to fight. Well, because I have to observe them first, Rimuru said. He lowered his voice and whispered, for that reason. But you already know them, right? Milim asked. She was confused. You've seen them before, right? Well, yeah, this is my childhood show, after all, Rimuru said. But I'm not observing them as Rimuru Tempest or Satoru Mikami. He shook his head. I'm doing it as Veldanova's successor. The three true dragon siblings, Veldora, Velgrind, and Velzard, all looked at him curiously. As father's successor? Milim asked. She was interested. Well, I'm only telling you guys this because you're related to him, Rimuru said. But there's this law that only he knows in the cardinal world. Well, before I became his successor, that is. But this law is pretty important for the balance of the entire existence. It's the only law that's similar to every world, except for the cardinal world. He took a deep breath and said, and that is, time skip. After Rimuru told them about the law, they understood why he wanted to wait a year before fighting them. They continued watching the events of the Dragon Ball universe. They were all eager to see what would happen next. But let's not let this stop us from having some fun, Rimuru said. After all, this is a vacation. You can all interfere with their training, just don't reveal who you really are. He smiled, which they all nodded in agreement. Well then, if that's the case, I'll go there and make sure they get stronger, while staying in the shadows, Veldora said. Veldora disappeared in a flash of light, leaving the others behind. He traveled to the Dragon Ball universe and changed his form. He turned into an old man, his skin wrinkled and his hair white. He also hid his presence so that he wouldn't be noticed. He lowered his power, making sure that he was only a match to some of the strongest warriors in the universe. Veldora found himself standing in an open field on Earth. He landed in a quiet, peaceful place. The air was fresh and the sun was warm. He felt relaxed. He decided to make himself a comfortable place to stay. He used his sub-ability to manipulate matter, and he created a beautiful house in the middle of the field. He added a nice garden with flowers and trees. He also added a river that flowed around the house and a water wheel that generated power for lights. It was a cozy little home. It wasn't a permanent place for him, but it was a good temporary home. He was planning on doing something to attract the Z warriors to this location so that he could train them. He decided to wait for news of the true dragons going to attack, which would happen in a year from now. He knew that the Z warriors would start training when they hear about it. He would then find a way to attract them to his location. He would then train them. He would then make them strong enough to give him, his siblings and nephew a good fight. He sat down on the porch of his new home, relaxed, and enjoyed the peace and quiet. Meanwhile back at Rimuru, Velgrind, Velzard, and Milim continued to watch the events unfold in the Dragon Ball universe. They were all curious to see what would happen next. They were eager to see if the warriors of this universe would start training for the fight. They also checked in on Veldora, who had left to find a way to train the Z warriors. They couldn't believe what they saw. They laughed when they saw Veldora standing in an open field on Earth, wearing the form of an old man. He had built himself a house and a garden and a river and a water wheel. He was living the life like a retired farmer. They all shook their heads. Did he seriously turn himself into an old man and make a house? They thought to themselves. They had no idea what was going through his mind. He was the storm dragon Veldora, the embodiment of chaos, so unpredictable actions were pretty normal for him. Trying to guess what he was up to was pretty pointless. It was much easier to let him do his thing. After a while, they decided to just leave him be and look at other things instead. Back on Beerus's planet, Vegeta and Broly finished their sparring match. They were both exhausted, but they were satisfied with the training session. Beerus and Whis had just returned from Zeno's palace, and Whis immediately gathered the three Saiyans. He told them everything that the Grand Priest had said. They were all surprised. Goku and Vegeta were shocked. They had both seen Zeno's power before. Goku remembered when Zeno casually erased an entire timeline like nothing. It was terrifying. Hearing that Zeno's eraser had failed to erase the true dragons shocked them. Broly, who hadn't met Zeno, was also shocked. He didn't understand the full extent of Zeno's power, but he understood that the entire universe was in danger. Whis told them that they needed to train harder. They needed to be ready for the fight against the true dragons. He told them that he would train them 10 times harder than before. He would push them to their limits. He knew that they needed to be strong if they were going to win. Goku thought for a moment and suggested that they call Gohan. He told them about Gohan's progress. He told them that he had sparred with Gohan back on Earth a few hours ago. He knew that Gohan was strong. He was easily equal to Goku in power. He just needed to master his new form and gain more experience. He could surpass Goku and Vegeta in no time. He thought it would be better to train Gohan too. They were all shocked. It had only been a few days since Gohan had started training. He was already that strong. He was truly incredibly talented. His potential was truly amazing. They all agreed to call Gohan. They would train together and be ready for the fight. They had to be ready for the true dragons to protect the universe. That's all for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the story. If you enjoyed this kind of what if scenario, please leave a comment. I'll read every single one. And don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a new video. If you want to submit your own fanfic story to be featured on the channel, let me know. That's all for now. Goodbye.